It was my birthday, and I couldn't believe the audacity. My sister-in-law had humiliated me, and not just a little, she'd done it in front of everyone. The cruel joke she pulled left me seething, and I knew right then that I had to get back at her. So, I did. I gave her a pregnancy book. She wanted to mess with me. I'd return the favor, tenfold. Let me introduce the players in this drama. Charlie, my husband, is 26, same age as me, and we've been together since high school. High school sweethearts, you could say. We started dating back in our sophomore year, and here we are now. Then there's Cheryl, my sister-in-law, who's 28. She's Charlie's older sister. The three of us, we've known each other since high school, but it wasn't exactly a love story for me and Cheryl. You see, we were more like rivals, high school nemesis, if you will. She was always so bitter toward me, and honestly, I didn't care for her much either. She was 2 years ahead of us, a senior when Charlie and I were still sophomores. And despite her age advantage, Cheryl seemed to think she had the right to make my life miserable. She wasn't just a little mean either. She was downright nasty, the kind of person who could make anyone's life a living hell just for fun. No one dared challenge her. No one, except me. She and her clique were notorious for ruining people's reputations, spreading rumors, and playing dirty. I'm not even exaggerating when I say some people changed schools just to get away from her. But me? I wasn't scared of her. She didn't intimidate me, not even for a second. You see, before I started dating Charlie, we'd been friends for a while, and Cheryl was just another person in the mix. It wasn't like she was some untouchable queen bee. She was just Cheryl. Sure, high school is a strange place, but it didn't have to be as dramatic as she made it. I wasn't the type to cower, and by the time Charlie and I started dating, I got even bolder. She had no power over me. But Cheryl didn't take too kindly to that. One morning, I opened my locker like any normal day, and the next thing I knew, a cascade of fish water and dead fish came tumbling down onto me. The stench was unbearable. I was covered in it, head to toe, slime everywhere. It was disgusting, humiliating. I had to leave school early because I couldn't stand the embarrassment. I couldn't prove it was her, but I knew. Just days earlier, we had a vicious argument in the cafeteria where I called her a brain-dead zombie. I didn't expect that would be the response, but I knew it had to be her, given how viciously she retaliated. Charlie knew it, too. He was furious, but even though he couldn't get her to apologize, he at least managed to get her to back off. After that, Cheryl and I barely spoke to each other. It was like we had an unspoken truce, an agreement to avoid one another at all costs. Even after Charlie and I got married last year, things stayed the same. That is, until my in-laws decided we needed to make peace. Apparently, everyone had noticed the tension between Cheryl and me, and it was getting uncomfortable at family gatherings. They wanted us to get along. I was willing to try. I mean, it had been years since high school, and it wasn't like we were going to be best friends, but I figured we could be civil. So, we agreed to make an effort to at least greet each other at family events. Nothing more, nothing less. For a while, it seemed like we had made some progress. Things weren't great, but they weren't hostile either. We kept things cordial, no drama. But then, my birthday rolled around, and Cheryl, being Cheryl, decided to pull another stunt. She came empty-handed, which was fine. But then, when it was time to open presents, she made an announcement that sent chills down my spine. She had gifted me cooking lessons. She handed me an online course, saying it was a joke. But no one laughed. In fact, no one knew how to react. It was so clearly a dig. Let me give you some context here. I had spent the entire day in the kitchen, cooking everything myself. It wasn't even about being a professional chef. I loved cooking. It was a hobby, something I've always enjoyed. And here she was, mocking me about it, on the one day I had worked so hard to make sure everything was perfect. Charlie had even told everyone how delicious everything was, and the rest of the guests agreed. So why did she feel the need to tear me down? It stung, especially when she kept saying that she felt queasy from my cooking, as if she was about to throw up. It was cruel. And the worst part? She didn't even say goodbye when she left. I had spent the entire day hosting, and all she did was make a mockery of me. Afterward, I was done. I thought I might give her a chance to change, but this was proof that she hadn't grown up at all. She was still the high school bully, stuck in her cruel ways. So, when Cheryl invited me to her birthday last week, I showed up, but I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I brought her the perfect gift, a copy of What to Expect When You're Expecting. It was a little revenge, a little reminder that I wasn't going to let her get away with being awful anymore. A few weeks prior, I had overheard something that would change everything. Cheryl had come to Charlie, looking distressed, and asked to speak to him privately. I was curious, so I eavesdropped. I know it wasn't the right thing to do, but I couldn't help myself. I overheard her talking about being pregnant, but she was terrified. She wasn't ready for a baby, and it was clear she was seeking advice from Charlie. They didn't talk in detail, but from what I gathered, Charlie told her she needed to talk to her husband and figure things out. If she still wasn't ready, they could talk about options, but it was clear she was in crisis. She had been acting strange, no doubt about it. It didn't make sense for her to come to us if she wasn't ready to have a baby. The things she said were bizarre, almost like she was subtly asking Charlie to help her end the pregnancy in secret. But Charlie? He wasn't going to get involved in anything so sneaky. He felt her husband deserved to know before she did anything drastic. Now, don't get me wrong. The decision is ultimately hers, but she was married. And we all agreed her husband had the right to know. Since that day, we hadn't heard a word about her pregnancy, but something inside me just couldn't let it go. I had to play a little prank. I gave her that book, you know, the one about pregnancy. Thank goodness she didn't unwrap it in front of everyone at the party. But still, it didn't matter. That book was the catalyst for a whole new level of drama, and it pushed her marriage to the edge. The day after her birthday, she called me, her voice trembling with tears, accusing me of ruining her life. She blamed me for sabotaging her marriage, but I couldn't even begin to understand why. I tried to get her to explain, but she was too angry. The words just tumbled out, each one more furious than the last. And then, without another word, she hung up. Soon after, my in-laws called me. They had all the details. Apparently, Cheryl had been unwrapping gifts with her husband when she got to the book. I had even written a note, congratulating her, thinking it was just a funny little jab. At the time, I didn't even know she was pregnant, but the idea of messing with her, after the way she treated me at my birthday, seemed too good to pass up. But what I hadn't known, what none of us had known, was that her husband was sterile. The pregnancy couldn't possibly have been his. The implications hit me like a ton of bricks. Could it be? Had she been cheating? Her husband had already suspected something, and now that book just gave him all the ammunition he needed. No one in the family knew for sure if she'd been unfaithful, but honestly, if he couldn't have children, there's no way she hadn't been cheating. But it wasn't my problem, was it? Not really. All I knew was that Cheryl had come to Charlie, asking for help with a secret abortion. Now, the panic made sense. She was a housewife, everything she spent could be traced back to her husband. She couldn't afford for him to find out, and withdrawing cash? Too obvious. But she never counted on me slipping that book into her hands. She tried everything she could to convince her husband that I was just joking, that the book was nothing serious. But he wasn't having it. He didn't think Charlie and I would joke about something like that. So, he asked Cheryl to leave, and now she was living with her parents. My in-laws called again, begging me to speak with her husband to convince him that it was all just a prank. They feared their marriage was on the verge of collapse, and they wanted me to fix it. But I didn't think it was my responsibility. If Cheryl had wanted to keep her marriage intact, maybe she shouldn't have cheated. The situation was messy, yes, but I couldn't be the one to clean it up. Charlie agreed. He thought maybe the gift had been a bit too much compared to what had happened at my birthday, but we both felt I didn't owe her any apology. Still, my in-laws insisted. They thought that if I could just speak to her husband, maybe he wouldn't file for divorce. But if he really wanted to end the marriage, he should have done it by now, right? He kept threatening it, but no action. I wasn't going to get dragged into their drama. Cheryl's actions had set all of this in motion, and I wasn't about to take the blame. And yet, my in-laws kept accusing me. They painted me as some kind of villain who had orchestrated all of this, but it wasn't true. I had no idea it would spiral out of control like this. I didn't do anything on purpose, and I didn't feel sorry for her. But that didn't matter to them. To them, I was the mastermind, the one who had plotted this evil plan to destroy Cheryl. It was absurd. Now, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe I had made a huge mistake. Maybe I should have thought things through more carefully. Fast forward 2 weeks, and nothing had changed. We still hadn't spoken to her husband. Cheryl's affair was becoming clearer, though. She had been seeing someone else, someone from Charlie's friend group, no less. A few days ago, we had a heated argument with Cheryl. She said it wasn't fair that she was being blamed for everything, especially when Charlie's friend was also to blame. He wasn't taking any heat, and Cheryl felt abandoned. Charlie has a lot of married friends from high school, so it wasn't clear who she was talking about. But that wasn't the biggest issue. My in-laws? They were still relentless. They insisted I speak to Cheryl's husband to prevent the divorce. But I refused. If her husband wanted to leave, then he should just do it. What was he waiting for? Despite all this, my in-laws kept pushing. They wanted me to fix it, to step in and save Cheryl's marriage. But I wasn't going to. It wasn't my mess to clean up. So, we made the tough decision to block all of them, her husband, and my in-laws. It was a relief, really. 2 weeks of constant pressure, and now, we could finally get some peace. I know some people might think I overreacted, that I was cruel. But Cheryl had bullied me for years. She wasn't innocent. And if she had been cheating, well, that was on her. It was a free country. People were allowed to have their opinions. 3 days ago, we found out who the affair was with. It was one of Charlie's closest friends. That news hit us like a bombshell. Charlie had been venting about his family's unreasonable behavior, and it seemed his friend couldn't take it anymore. He confessed to the affair. The truth was finally out. So, here we are, facing the consequences of a prank gone too far. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't the prank that caused all this, it was Cheryl's choices that led her to this point. It was a year ago, around the time of our wedding, when everything turned upside down. What happened shook us to the core, something so unexpected that we're still reeling from it. Charlie's always been incredibly close to his friends, and a betrayal like this? We never saw it coming. This friend of his, someone who'd been married for 3 years, always seemed to have such a strong bond with his wife. We watched them, and honestly, they appeared to be in love. I know the woman, personally. She would go on and on about her husband. But now, all I can feel is deep sympathy for her. We made the decision quickly, we had to cut him out of our lives. We're not sharing this with anyone at the moment because we don't want to defame him, but this betrayal? We're done. We told him straight up that he needed to come clean to his wife, not to us. She deserves the truth. No one should ever have to endure this kind of pain. Then, to make matters worse, he sent us proof. Proof of Cheryl cheating with him. We thought we were right to stay out of the mess from the start. Getting dragged into this would bring nothing but trouble. So, we blocked them, and that's it. We've made our final decision. We know they haven't spoken to anyone else about this, at least, not that we've heard. The rest of the family? They still think everything's fine between us and my in-laws. No one suspects a thing. From what we can tell, Charlie's relatives are keeping things under wraps. This whole thing is too embarrassing for the family, and they clearly want to protect their reputation. I don't know if that's shallow or smart, but at least it's working for us. It's helping us keep this quiet, which is what we need. Right now, we've got enough on our plates without adding more drama. In just a few weeks, one of Charlie's cousins is getting married. We're going, but the situation? It's tense. We're not sure if my in-laws or Cheryl will show up, but if they do, it's going to be awkward for everyone. I can already feel the tension building. 2 months have passed since we blocked them. In that time, there hasn't been any drama, no pregnancy announcements, no divorce filings. We assumed Cheryl and her husband worked things out. Maybe they did. Honestly, we don't care. Their marriage is no longer our concern. Charlie and I both know that cheating doesn't stay hidden forever. Sooner or later, her husband will know the truth. And when he does, Cheryl will get exactly what she deserves. As for the pregnancy, we think she might have terminated it. But again, that's not our business. We've moved on, focusing on our own lives. Until recently, when we attended his cousin's wedding. Everyone was there, my in-laws, Cheryl, and her husband. And the moment we arrived, we made a point not to acknowledge each other. We pretended like the others didn't even exist. But, of course, the rest of the family quickly noticed. They could tell something was off. They tried to be subtle, asking questions, probing. But we weren't about to entertain any of it. We kept to ourselves, hoping the day would pass without further incident. But Cheryl? She didn't follow our lead. She started running her mouth, spreading lies. Despite knowing we knew the truth, she couldn't help herself. It didn't take long before we had to confront her. And that confrontation? It led to a public showdown at the rehearsal dinner. I hate that it happened, especially at someone else's wedding. Charlie and his cousin had always been close, and now, thanks to us, one of the events was ruined. After the scene, we couldn't stay. We left before the wedding even began. We've apologized to Charlie's cousin countless times, and she's told us it's fine, but we still feel guilty. Meanwhile, Cheryl and my in-laws? They didn't even apologize. They're the ones who caused the drama, yet they didn't bother to make things right. After we left, they were actually asked to leave by other family members. That felt deserved. When Charlie's cousin called to tell him what happened the day before her wedding, while we were apologizing to her, it felt like sweet justice. The reason the fight even happened? Cheryl had been spreading lies, telling everyone we were trying to ruin her marriage with fabricated stories of her cheating. But that's not who we are. We don't care about her marriage. We never did. We just wanted the truth to come out. But then Cheryl, in her arrogance, claimed we had an open marriage. She accused me of wanting to build a relationship with her husband and said I'd been jealous of her all along. That was too much. So, we confronted her. At the rehearsal dinner, I laid out the screenshots, the proof Charlie had kept to himself for so long. It was time. We weren't going to let her say whatever she wanted and get away with it. Now her husband knows the truth. He can't deny it anymore. Whether or not he makes the right choice is up to him, but at least no one can doubt what happened. We did the right thing, standing up for ourselves. We left on our own terms. They, on the other hand, were kicked out. It felt satisfying. Now, the entire family knows who Cheryl really is. I feel for her husband. He tried to make things work with her, but it seems pointless now. I really hope he finds the strength to leave her. If he chooses to stay, well, that says a lot about his own self-worth. She spent so long accusing us of ruining her marriage, and now? Now, the truth is out, and she'll have to face the consequences of all the lies and manipulation. Charlie and I have been standing up to her for years. We weren't afraid of her then, and we're not afraid now. She should have known better than to push us this far. 2 weeks have passed since the wedding, and now, I've heard the news. Cheryl and her husband are getting divorced. She posted about it, claiming it was a mutual decision. What a load of nonsense. Does she really think people are blind? Everyone at the wedding knows the truth. Her entire family is aware of what really went down. We don't need to ask her about it. Everyone knows. Charlie told some of his friends, and that's how the gossip spread. We don't regret a thing. Cheryl's been a bully, and we finally stood up to her. If that makes us the bad guys in the eyes of some, so be it. My in-laws? They've decided to cut us out of their lives, even sending a lawyer to tell Charlie they're going no contact. They're even planning to cut us out of the inheritance. As if we're going to beg for forgiveness. It's not going to happen. We don't care about their money. Let them keep it. Cheryl's their problem now. She's the one who's been living off her parents and her husband for years. If they want to support her forever, that's on them. Charlie and I? We're happy with where we are. We don't need their approval, their money, or their drama. We did what we thought was right, and we're not sorry.